Venus retrograde serves as an important cosmic reality check, forcing us to reevaluate what really holds value in our lives. It's a time of deep reflection, revealing what's worth cherishing and what no longer aligns with our heart's desires, making these next few weeks the time to reevaluate your most important connections. And this particular Venus energy brings a dramatic shift in energy with two distinct chapters. It begins in fiery, headstrong Aries, where Venus is at its detriment, stirring up tension in love, pleasure, and relationships. But as Venus retraces its steps, the energy softens, culminating in powerful transformation as Venus finds deep, soulful support in the compassionate sign of Pisces, the sign of its exaltation. In this video, we'll cover everything you need to know to navigate this Venus retrograde from March 1st through April 12th of 2025, in your love, your finances, your material world, your relationships, and so much more, including a forecast for all 12 signs. But before we dive in, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an important astrology update. I do a new forecast or tutorial every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and you don't want to miss that. Also, make sure you like and comment below and let me know how your Venus retrograde is going so far. And if you haven't already done so, definitely make sure you download my free Astrology 101 quick reference guide at the link down in the description below. This is going to help you not only pick apart your own chart and understand yourself better, but it'll help you navigate these free weekly forecasts so you can get even more detail out of this wonderful forecast that I'm offering for you today for the Venus retrograde. So definitely check that out, 100% free, down in the description below. So as always, we're going to start with the general forecast for the Venus retrograde. Please do not skip this because this provides a very important context for what we're going to be diving into in your forecast for all three of your signs, sun, moon, and rising. And so you definitely want to make sure that you take advantage of this general forecast. And so what I'm going to be doing here is giving you a play-by-play of how these energies are going to manifest over this 6-week period of the Venus retrograde. This is a long time, and Venus is going to be doing a lot of stuff. And so this is much more than we can cover in each individual forecast, but you want to keep what I'm going to mention here in mind as we go through those individual forecasts. So Venus retrogrades are special because they don't come around as often as other retrogrades. While Mercury retrogrades, for example, happen 3 times every year, Venus retrogrades only happen once every roughly 1.5-ish years. And so this is something that doesn't come around quite as often. And when it does, we really feel it. It's very noticed, especially because Venus becomes very bright in the sky. And it's actually going to be at its brightest at the start, right before the retrograde during the shadow period from February 14th through the 21st. So right before you watch this video, it just reached its maximum brightness, but it should still be super bright if you go out there and do some stargazing tonight as well. Venus starts out in February and March as the evening star, and then it's going to make its conjunction with the sun in the middle of the Venus retrograde when it goes cazimi, and then it'll come back and become visible in April as Lucifer, the morning star, which is a little bit of a different energy. And so Venus as the evening star is supposed to be a little bit more fortuitous and a little bit gentler. Venus as the morning star is a little bit more rebellious in its energy. And as we go through this retrograde period, which begins on March 1st and ends on April 12th, the nature of Venus changes. With any planetary retrograde, the energy of the planet becomes more internalized and subjective in its influence, but it also becomes stronger and more potent. So Venusian themes of love, relationships, joy, pleasure, especially material and bodily types of pleasure, those are very Venusian themes. Anything to do with money and finance, anything to do with purchases and buying things and beauty and making things beautiful. Refurbishing things is very much a Venus retrograde theme, which we can talk about in just a second here. But all of these Venusian energies become at the forefront of our consciousness. And so that's why relationships take on an extra importance, because they are going under this period of reevaluation, an introspective period of rethinking and feeling out our most important, most potent relationships. And that's why this is a really important time to use for that introspection, for that deeper understanding when it comes to your relationships. When it comes to old relationships that have already been long-standing, you might see something about this person or about the dynamic within that relationship between the two of you that you didn't see before, that now all of a sudden is very apparent and very well understood. And you might need to reflect on that and then maybe even use that to address something later on down the line, either during the Venus retrograde or especially afterward, because during that Venus retrograde, it's more about the knowing, the understanding, the reflection than it is about the actual action that you're going to be taking to remedy or create better harmony and balance in relationships. And speaking of which, because this is the period to deepen your understanding of all of your most personal connections, to deepen your understanding of yourself and the way that you act and the way that you, and what you bring to the table really in all of your relationships, not just romantic relationships, but your friendships, your business partnerships, your work relationships, your family relationships, all of it. This is the time to do that, which is why I am finally releasing my most requested mini course ever. My Relationships in Synastry mini course is now open for enrollment. You can join us early and get an early bird discount for 50% off. The classes will start rolling out at March 19th, so right in the middle of the Venus retrograde, and they will continue to be released throughout the retrograde. And we're going to end with a bonus live Q&A call where you can ask your questions and get answers with me in real time, but only if you enroll before March 19th. And in this course, we're going to be covering two different parts. So there's two different modules or sections to this mini course. Module 1 or part 1 is all about looking at your birth chart to understand how all of your relationships play out in your life. I always tell my clients and my students that I can tell way more about your marriage, about your friendships, about your closest connections from your birth chart alone. Don't even need the other person's birth chart than I can through Synastry or any other method of interpretation. There is so much juicy information there, and this is so valuable for understanding all of your most important partnerships. We're going to cover this in such detail, and we're not just doing romantic relationships. We're not just doing love affairs and marriages and divorces and things like that. We are covering the whole spectrum. You're going to learn about parent-child relationships. You're going to learn about family dynamics. You're going to learn about friendships. You're going to learn about employee-employer relationships. It's going to be juicy. And then we're going to get into part 2, which is the Synastry portion. Synastry shows us how two people and their birth charts interrelate and interact with one another. This is an important component, but it is not the make or break. This just shows you how you relate to somebody else and how you can work with the positive energies that flow really nicely with another person, and how you can work to understand and overcome the challenges that you face when you are with someone that you kind of clash with in certain areas. And so we're going to cover that again, not just for romantic partnerships, but for all relationships. And I am doing this, you guys, at a super, super, super low price. Like, everyone on my team is like, really, you're charging that little? But I know that this is a huge value, and I want you guys to be able to dive in and do it during the Venus retrograde. So not only is it already super low price, but you are getting 50% off if you join us before the 19th. If you're watching this video after the 19th, there's still going to be a little bit of a discount until the end of April, but you're going to be paying a little bit more. So you want to jump in now if you can. Anyway, back to the scheduled programming. Let's get back into the Venus retrograde general forecast. I just had to mention that because I'm so excited. You guys have been asking me to do a course like this forever, and I threatened to do it last year, but I got a little sidetracked. I wanted to make sure we did it right, and the Venus retrograde is definitely the time to be doing this. So speaking of this Venus retrograde being a time for reevaluation of relationships, a lot of people always ask me, like, what happens if you have a new connection, a new friendship? You have to hire someone during a Venus retrograde, or you fall in love and you find someone and you're like, wow, this person is amazing. Well, chances are that new person that comes into your life during the Venus retrograde is not who you think they are. Something about that person and your viewpoint of them is very likely to change after Venus goes direct, and something about the dynamic of that relationship and partnership is definitely going to change when Venus goes direct. What I've personally seen is that relationships that begin during a Venus retrograde are often very like on again, off again, and they don't have like a smooth trajectory. or they tend to end after Venus goes direct, because then you start to see the person's true nature. And so especially with this particular Venus retrograde, because there's going to be a lot of Aries energy and then a lot of Piscean energy, which can be very cloudy to our judgment, we're going to have some rude awakenings after Venus goes direct with any new people that come into our lives. However, that doesn't mean that all is lost. Sometimes it's just that the dynamic of the relationship changes, your perspective on it changes, something's a little bit different when it moves forward. If it's truly meant to be, it'll still work. And if you have a Venus retrograde in your chart, or your partner does, that changes things quite a bit. On the flip side, breakups that happen during the Venus retrograde often don't tend to stick. It's kind of like, I want to be done with this once and for all. And then it comes back around and comes back around and comes back around. And you're not really done with it after Venus goes direct. You have to deal with some additional steps to release yourself from that partnership, or you might get back together and it might be great. That could be another thing too that I've seen. When it comes to finances, making really big, major, luxurious purchases during a Venus retrograde, not the best idea. However, you can get really good deals on things that are used. So things that are secondhand, especially if you have to put a little bit of work into it, especially if you have to like rehab it or refurbish it in some way, that type of thing, that can be a really great value during a Venus retrograde, or a really great way to spend your resources. So looking for bargains, looking for value, but not overextending yourself with something really luxurious, because you're probably going to regret that when Venus goes direct. But you can buy something that's pricey, like a used car, if it's used, right? Just don't go out and buy like a brand new Tesla or something during a Venus retrograde. You might not be happy with that decision when Venus goes direct. This is also a really great time to refinance things. It's not the best time to take out like a new loan or new financing for something. If you do, you probably will have to refinance later on down the line. There's going to be something that goes on with that. Or if you're already planning to refinance and you know that's going to be a thing, then maybe it's okay. But just know that that's going to need to happen at some point for some reason. But when it comes to something you already have financing for, Venus retrograde is one of the best times to refinance. Also, financial blunders and mishaps that start during a Venus retrograde take forever to finish and get actually resolved. So for example, if you were trying to return something and you realize that the money didn't return to your account during the Venus retrograde, and you're back and forth with customer service, and then like 6 months later you finally get your refund, like that's a Venus retrograde type of thing. So just know that if mishaps come up financially, they will get resolved, but just plan for the fact that it's going to be a little bit harder. You're going to have to really keep up on it, and it's going to take some time. Now, in terms of this particular Venus retrograde, it has its own unique, special spice and energy. And so, as I mentioned at the start of this video, Venus stations to go retrograde at 10 degrees in the sign of Aries in a very close conjunction with the moon, which softens it a little bit at that time, but it's not going to stay there, right? Venus is just going to be retrograding in Aries. Venus in Aries is at its detriment. Venus's true nature is all about bringing things together. It's about harmonizing and balancing. Whereas Aries is all about me, what I want, making my will happen. It's very enthusiastic, very passionate, which can be a wonderful quality with that Venusian energy if it's utilized efficiently. But when Venus is in retrograde, it's not able to harness the more positive energies of Venus and Aries as effectively. And, when Venus is in Aries, it's not very supported. So it's not supported because it's in retrograde. Venus is a benefic planet, so it's not going to bring like horrible, evil, malefic things, but it's not supported in having these really beautiful, harmonious, like mutually beneficial relationship dynamics when it's in retrograde in the sign of Aries. And so that's something that can show up, not just like coming to you, but like from you. So what I mean by that is you might notice that there are certain people in your life that are super selfish and you didn't realize it until Venus went retrograde. And that might be something where you need to put up some better boundaries. You need to stand up for yourself and use that Aries energy for you. Or maybe you need to, let that relationship go or renegotiate the terms of that agreement later on down the line or during the Venus retrograde. And so it just becomes apparent around around that time that something is amiss. This is also an energy where there will be like a wide conjunction to Chiron, so this could bring up some old wounds, insecurities, vulnerabilities around relationships around the time of the Venus station on March 1st. Not the biggest energy, but it's there. And then there's also going to be a square to Mars, which exacerbates the idea of like everybody's going to be looking at what they need, what they want, what they desire in relationships without taking as much into consideration the needs and wants and desires of others, which is going to lead to conflict at the start of this retrograde. And then there is a little bit of a balance though, because there is a sextile and a pretty close sextile with Jupiter and Gemini around the time of this station. So there is like an out, and that out is through communication and through like additional maybe education even, or learning new things about communication and relationships. So I don't hate this because there is a mitigation. It's like if there is a fight that starts around the time of this Venus station, it's not going to have like this detrimental long-term horrible impact on your partnership moving forward. It's something that came up because you needed to realize it and you needed to kind of bring that into your awareness. In the middle of the Venus retrograde, there are some really big main events. Venus is going to be going back and forth over some really big players in the astrology. So Venus is actually going to be sextiling Uranus and Pluto 3 times. And then it's also going to be conjunct Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node when it moves into Pisces, which is a huge deal. So it's going to be in this conjunction with this stellium and sextile Uranus when it's in Pisces. And when it's in Aries, it's going to be in sextile to Pluto. And so what does this all mean? When Venus is in sextile to Pluto, that's going to be, again, this like laser focused energy on like, what do I want? What do I want? And then as we go backward and Venus enters the sign of Pisces, it's more about like, okay, how do I take what I want and merge that in a compassionate way with the collective energy of these other relationships, these other connections in my life. This is also a Venus retrograde that is very fated, very karmic in nature. There is a deep transformation, a big change that needs to occur in all of your most important partnerships, especially in the area of life that's being impacted. We'll talk about that when we get into all of the different signs. But there is a karmic contract that you are not fully aware of yet, that you are going to need to revisit and embrace and move forward into as a result of what comes up for you in your relationships, in your finances, when it comes to your joy, when it comes to the way that you experience pleasure in this material reality, all of it. When these conjunctions occur, when Venus goes back into the sign of Pisces, which that actually happens on March 27th. So from March 1st to March 27th, Venus in Aries. From March 27th to April 12th, Venus in Pisces, which again is a completely different energy. So that Venus in Aries, I think, is going to feel very intense. It's almost going to be like, I have a list of demands. Here are my demands, right? And you're going to get that on the receiving end, and you're going to be giving that to people. These are the boundaries. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I need from you. And it's going to be very direct, right? And that can be kind of abrasive and that can cause conflict, but it is something that is probably needed for certain people. And then when Venus moves into its exaltation in the sign of Pisces, it's more about like, okay, now that I'm clear on what I want, I'm clear on what I need. You've told me what you want too. Let's figure out how we can work together to move forward in the path that we're meant to move into. This is also an energy, again, of boundaries. So Neptune is there. So there's definitely going to be some murkiness and some confusion around our relationships that becomes way more apparent when Venus is in Pisces. Even though it's in its exaltation, we have Neptune, we have Saturn. There is something here where there's going to be a challenge around creating those good boundaries while still maintaining that connection. There's going to be challenges around seeing our people clearly, seeing our friends clearly, seeing our partners clearly, seeing new connections clearly, where things are super muddled and super murky, but it also feels like we can't stop ourselves. Like the direction that we're moving into in our relationships at this time is one that is fated, and it will become way more apparent with the eclipses that are happening happening. So like there's an eclipse on March, I believe 15th, like right in the middle of this before Venus goes into Pisces. That's going to show us something. And then there's this relationship component that comes in when Venus actually hits that point around, the end of March to the beginning of April. So it's being activated and reactivated in some way. And then we have Venus stationing direct on April 12th of 2025. This is where it's going to be stationing in that stellium, not just with Saturn and the North Node and Neptune, but also Mercury in the sign of Pisces. So we have this energy here of Venus exalted in the stellium in a tight trine also with Mars in the sign of Cancer. Mars is still going to be in its shadow from the retrograde, and this is going to be in a loose square with Jupiter and Gemini, which actually provides reception. So even though it's a square, it's Jupiter, it's benefic. The reception also makes it a beneficial thing. So I really actually love the energy of this Venus station on April 12th. Even though Saturn's in the mix, there's so much good to be had here. This is where something is lit up in our consciousness, bright and beautiful and in our faces, that we have to pay attention to when it comes to all of our most important relationships, when it comes to all of the connections that we want to not just maintain, but grow and strengthen and make better and more beautiful moving forward. There is something at the forefront of our consciousness when it comes to how we can have a more beautiful, more harmonious, more joyous and pleasurable life. There is something at the forefront of our consciousness with a big dream, maybe involving a relationship, involving a financial endeavor, where we are trying to figure out how to take this dream and turn it into reality. And there's just a knowing that we can make this happen. Now that we've gone through that reevaluation process, there is something here and we are going to plunge forward into it. And so I love the way that this Venus retrograde ends. It's going to be a little rocky here and there throughout the Venus retrograde, but it's not the worst, and it's Venus, so it's never going to be the worst. But the way that it ends is like such a reward for all of the effort that we've been putting in to reevaluate our financial situation, to reevaluate what we want for ourselves, what we want our life to look like, to feel like, the pleasures we want to enjoy in our life, and also what we want our relationships to look like, which is the most important thing, which again is why I'm releasing my relationships and synastry course right in the middle of this Venus retrograde, because it is the time. So definitely, again, jump on that if you are somebody who already has a little bit of understanding about astrology, signs, planets, houses, aspects, and you want to understand relationship astrology for yourself, your friends and family, or your clients. This is the time to get it for 50% off down below. All right, so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning, of course, with Aries and Aries rising. So for Aries, sun, moon, and rising, this transit, this Venus retrograde begins in your sign, especially if you are in Aries. From anywhere from 0 to 10 degrees, you're going to be feeling this the most, because Venus will be retracing its steps over your sun, moon, or rising sign. This is a point where you are being highlighted. You actually might feel much more charismatic, much more likable. People might be actually a little bit easier, or have an easier time, I should say, receiving what it is that you're putting out there around the time, especially that Venus is stationing and as it's moving backward over your ascendant sun or moon. I do like this energy for that. This is also a time where you are reevaluating your role in creating the circumstances of all of your closest and most important relationships in your life, especially one-on-one partnerships, especially business and career-related relationships, agreements, partnerships, contracts, things like that, and especially family relationships. So if there are dynamics that are not working for you, you are looking at how you have contributed to those dynamics. And if you're not, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are always playing a role. There are two people in every relationship. And even if they are the one that, did the bad thing and, they're worse than you, or whatever it is that you are experiencing, you still play a role in the way that you react to that person, the way that you allow these things to happen, the way that you engage with the circumstances. And maybe you are the cause of the problem too, and you didn't realize it until this Venus retrograde brought it up into the forefront of your consciousness. So from March 1st through the 27th, it is going to be a period of reevaluation of your role in creating these situations in your life and how you can rebalance and reharmonize and maybe create better boundaries if needed moving forward. From there, it's going to be a much more introspective and creative experience for you. So from the 27th through the 12th, this is all about you aligning with your unconscious and subconscious realities, you aligning with your imagination, you reimagining and reinventing what you want for your life moving forward. This is also a beautiful time of rest and reprieve. This is the perfect time to go on some sort of spiritual quest or retreat. This is the perfect time to pull yourself out of the busyness of day-to-day life and revisit, re-explore your creativity. This is one of the most beautiful and precious times for you this year to spend time in solitude and seclusion with yourself, with your imagination, delve into the world of fantasy, delve into the world of, spirituality. You're going to have a lot of really incredible benefits by doing that once Venus moves direct. And then for Taurus and for Taurus rising, Venus is going to begin its retrograde motion in your 12th house, which is going to be a more introspective time. This is a time also, though, because of the way that it's playing out, where if you are having relationship issues, especially, really in any area of life, but especially in your work and with like coworkers and things like that, or if there's relationships that are a little too one-sided where you are showing up in service of someone and helping them over and over and over again, and you're not getting that reciprocity, you're not getting that in return, this is a time where it's going to be very apparent. So this is a very reflective time on what's working and what's not in your relationships, where it's going to be just very introspective. Nothing's necessarily happening. This is also looking at the hidden causes of relationship troubles across all areas of life. And so this is going to be going on from the 1st of March through the 27th. After the 27th, this is beautiful. I would say for most Taurus rising people especially, old relationships, especially old friendships and people that you have lost contact with, will come back out into the open in this very faded, beautiful, harmonious way. And they are back for a while. Like, this isn't just they're back for the retrograde necessarily because Saturn's in the mix. There's either something here where you need to integrate some lesson or some component of that connection into your long-term plans or into your long-term experience with all of your close partnerships and relationships, or this person is back and they're here to stay. And this is especially, like I said, for friendships, and this is going to lead you in a brand new direction. You're not going to see it clearly. Like, what you think this is while Venus is in retrograde is not what it is. After the 12th of April, it'll be very apparent what these connections mean, or these reconnections mean. But it is of importance. So even though you can't see it clearly, it doesn't mean that it's bad. This could also hold weight, especially if you're a Taurus sun, moon, or rising anywhere from 24 to 30 degrees, you might, or even I would say 20 to 30 degrees, you might have a reconnection of an old, like, long-term partnership, somebody who you dated or you were with for a really long time that comes back into the mix. It could be for good, or again, it could be for a reason. There's something here that you need to reintegrate in order to have stronger, more stable, more loyal, more long-term connections moving forward. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, so this Venus retrograde is beginning in your 11th house of friends, social networks, and people that you surround yourself with by choice. And if you're a Gemini rising, this is also in trine with your descendant. This is a time where old partnerships, old relationships, old friendships are going to come back around for you to revisit, reevaluate. You might not keep them. There's something here where you have to reincorporate your ideas about these connections into your belief system, so that way moving forward you have better, more harmonious, not just better and more harmonious relationships, but relationships that work for you as well as working for them, that are less one-sided, so that are mutually beneficial in some way, where in the past you realized that your needs weren't being met or their needs weren't being met. It was very one-sided. So this is going to really bring up this evaluation of one-sided relationships, and especially in your social circle and in your friendships, it'll be very apparent between March 1st and the 27th where there is a lack of balance in those friendships, where you have not been giving enough or you have not been receiving enough. And so that's something that you're going to have to clarify and address during the first half of the Venus retrograde. In the second half of the Venus retrograde, after the 27th of March, when Venus is in Pisces through the 12th, this is going to be a period of a lot of really beautiful gifts that can come to you through reevaluating your connections, relationships, and financial situation with your work, your career, and your public status. There's something going on here where a powerful person who maybe you've met previously, but maybe nothing really came of it, comes back into your life and gives you a little boost. This could also be you having to reevaluate your relationship with your boss or with somebody in your career or in your business. If you are a business owner, this is reevaluating your public image, what you're putting out there into the world for public consumption and how that's being received, right? And looking at ways that you can do this that are more aligned with your path, your purpose, your destiny, and your career path. And so I love this for that. If you are like a Gemini rising especially, and if you have your rising sign anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees, this is going to be in square with your ascendant and descendant. And so this could be where your career goals and plans have to be reevaluated because they clash with something to do with an important partnership in your life. And so there is a need to be open-minded and compassionate about it, but there is maybe a little bit of tension there where something needs to be readdressed and reevaluated so you can move into a brand new direction that you are meant to move into. And then for Cancer and for Cancer rising, Venus retrograde begins in your 10th house. This is a major reevaluation of your career, your public reputation, the work that you're doing out in the world, even if you're not, somebody who has a career and you're retired or you're not working. This is looking at the legacy that you leave behind, the mark you make on the world, and you're reevaluating the mark you make on others through the work that you're putting out there, through your public image, through what it is that you do put out there. And so it's going to be potentially a period where there could be old bosses, old superiors, old people in positions of power and authority that you used to look up to that come back around in some way. It could even be somebody from the internet that you followed and looked up to, and all of a sudden they come back around and you have to reintegrate one of their lessons, one of their teachings, or they come back to give you a little boost. Like there could be somebody who you actually know in real life who was a boss and they say, hey, I have like an opportunity for you. Like that type of thing is definitely possible during this Venus retrograde. This is also looking at making sure your needs are met in all career related and business related partnerships and relationships. And this is also a reevaluation of finances in your business. So especially if you are somebody who's a business owner, it's kind of reevaluating you're not just your brand and your image out in the world, because that's a part of it. There could even be a rebranding going on. But this is also reevaluating a little bit about how that's connected to your expenses, right? Like for your business or something along those lines. And then that lasts from March 1st, as I mentioned before, through the 27th. That period from the 27th through the 12th of April that we talked about at the start of this video in the general forecast, that is where you're going to have Venus in your 9th house, which is the house of foreign travel, beliefs. It's going to be a reevaluation about your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, the things that shape and frame your reality. This is also going to be a reevaluation of your connections with important teachers, people that have shared their beliefs, their wisdom with you. You might have to reincorporate an old belief system, or you might be revisiting a teacher who you learned from in the past that you maybe want to take another course with, or maybe you want to reconnect with in some way. They have some deeper wisdom for you that's going to take you on a new path or a new trajectory. This is also a beautiful time to go on like a second honeymoon if you're somebody who's married or in partnership, and go back to a place with a partner that you loved to be there with them. Like if you could pick your favorite vacation that you had with your partner, this is one of the best times to go back to that place and kind of relive that experience. And so many new, wonderful, beautiful, fated things can come out of that, where this is going to throw you in your partnership into a brand new, more harmonious direction. For Leo and for Leo rising, this Venus retrograde is beginning in your 9th house, which is the house of education, wisdom, your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you. It's also the house of foreign connections and foreign travel. There could be somebody from a foreign country, from someplace that's far away from you, who you reconnect with after a very long time. This could also be reconnecting with old teachers in order to gain new knowledge or to reevaluate the knowledge from the past and reintegrate it in in some way. This is also a really great time to revisit like a vacation spot or some place that you've been to in the past that you want to go back to. I think a lot of benefits can be had from that. And overall, this is just a really beautiful energy for Leo's sun, moon, and risings who have their sun, moon, and rising anywhere between 0 and 10 degrees, because Venus will be going back and forth, trining your ascendant, sun, or moon, bringing luck, good fortune, harmony, pleasure, especially through adventures and through higher knowledge, higher wisdom. So that's just the first part from March 1st through the 27th. After the 27th and until the 12th of April, Venus will be retrograding in your 8th house, which is the house of death and rebirth. It's the house of taxes, debt to other people's money. There's something here where money could come back around in some way, where, you know, there's something that maybe you left behind or you didn't realize that you were entitled to, where all of a sudden you could get an extra tax refund or an extra rebate on something or an extra insurance payout. There's something going on here where, especially if you're somebody who has like a will or like a living trust, this would be a time to go back and revise, re-edit, kind of reevaluate your financial planning for, you know, after you pass. This is also an important time to just reevaluate and look at like your life insurance policies, your insurance policies in general, make sure that everything is up to date. And if you need to kind of like redo something, this is also one of the best times for Leo and Leo rising people, if it's applicable to you, to refinance something. If that's something that you need to do for some reason, this would be a time to renegotiate some sort of financial situation that is coming from an outside source or that is connected to an outside source of income. Or maybe even renegotiate a payment plan if you're needing to do that for something. This would be the time where it would go a little bit more smoothly for you. This is also something that you might need to revisit when it comes to your connection with your partner and your partner's resources, where you might need to reevaluate your budget together in some way. This is also revisiting old trauma, wounds, insecurities, old fears that stem from past experiences in relationships, where it's going to bubble up to the surface in a way that's gentle and easy to understand, so that way you can go through and heal through those processes, those experiences once and for all, so they're no longer controlling your behavior in the present. And then for Virgo and for Virgo rising, this Venus retrograde begins in your 8th house. There could be something that comes back around financially, and it's going to be kind of abrupt, where all of a sudden you have this old bill that comes up where you thought you paid that. It's like from 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden you're getting a bill and you're like, have all these extra fees. It might take some time to renegotiate and to settle this, you know, situation. However, it will be settled if that is the case. It needs to be settled. It's kind of like this is hanging over you and you forgot about it and now it's here. This is also one of the best times to reevaluate your budget, especially in partnership with somebody else. This is also a really great time to renegotiate any financial contracts, to refinance something. This is really about you figuring out exactly what you need, want, and desire when it comes to your finances, your investments, your debt, your finances with your partner if you share finances and resources. And this is a time to rebalance and reharmonize that financial situation so it's much better for you moving forward. This is also going to be after so that's from the 1st through the 27th. After the 27th, Venus shifts back into Pisces, where it's going to be in your 7th house. This is a major reevaluation of all of your love relationships or close one-on-one partnerships. If you are in partnership, this is you kind of revisiting and reevaluating that relationship. You're seeing new things about your partner, but you're not seeing them quite so clearly. But there are things that you need to address in partnership. There are things that you need to renegotiate in partnership. Maybe this is one of the best times for you to engage in like couples counseling, couples therapy. It's going to go really smoothly and really well. This is also a really great time for you to reignite your intimacy and compassion and connection in your partnership. And so, you know, maybe even just getting to know your partner again, or getting to know your partner in a new way. Old relationships, old flames are very likely to come in or come back around at this time. And so that's just something to be aware of. It does not mean that it's there to stay. It could be, but a lot of times with Venus retrogrades, these old partnerships will come back around, and it's for a reason, right? And for you, there's a very karmic reason for it. Like, this is coming back up at this time for a reason, because you need to move into a brand new direction when it comes to your relationships. And you can't do that until you address this old thing with this person that you dated like 6 years ago. So that's going to be a big part of this for a lot of people. There is the need to kind of go backward before you move forward in all of your close one-on-one partnerships with this Venus retrograde. And it's not going to be clear exactly what that looks like during the Venus retrograde, but it's going to be apparent that it needs to happen. I will say that any new relationships that come in during this Venus retrograde, especially for Virgo rising sun and moon people, they're going to be very murky. Like, you are going to think like either very highly or very low of that person. It's probably going to be one of the two extremes, but you're not going to see them in the correct light. You're not going to see them for what they truly are and what they truly mean to you until Venus goes direct. So reserve judgment as much as you can until after the 12th of April. For Libra and for Libra rising, Venus is starting to go retrograde in your 7th house, which is a reevaluation of all of your close one-on-one partnerships. It could be that there was a breakup and somebody comes back into the mix. It could be that an old fling from the past or somebody who you dated for a really long time comes back in, and you're considering getting back together with that person, or you need to kind of address something with that relationship once and for all before you can move on. I will say that it's not likely that you're going to stay with that person, especially with this sextile to Pluto. It's almost as if it's a sexual thing, and it's a sexual thing only. So it's kind of like you need to like have one last, one last experience with that person, so that way you can move on and change something. And if new partnerships come in from the 1st through the 12th, just know that they're probably not going to meet your needs in the way that you think that they will after Venus goes direct. It's going to be a little one-sided, I would say. But you might not see that until after April 12th. Venus moves retrograde into your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, daily routines, service, and animals. There is something that you need to revisit or reevaluate here involving your work-related partnerships and relationships, especially with coworkers and employees. It could be that you're not seeing a person very clearly. They could be maybe misleading you or lying to you in some way, and you're having to reevaluate the circumstances of that connection. There is a new path that you need to take with your work also that is much more creative, much more joyous. And so it's kind of a time to look at whether or not the work you're doing on a day-to-day basis really brings you joy, brings you pleasure, brings you what you need and what you desire, because moving forward, it needs to look different, but it's not going to be perfectly clear exactly what that means and how you're going to rebalance and reharmonize that situation in your day-to-day work until Venus moves direct after the 12th. This could also be a time to rebalance and reharmonize something within your body and your physical health, where something comes back around, or a person maybe you've worked with in the past, like a practitioner or a doctor, comes back around with new information, and that might help you moving forward. And then for Scorpio rising. For Scorpios, Venus is moving retrograde in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. There is potentially something that you need to reevaluate in partnership, not necessarily in partnership, but like in any close relationship involving your work. So with your coworkers, with your collaborators, with your contractors, with your employees, if you're somebody who is in a management position or owns a business. There's something here where you're finally seeing what that person is all about and what their motives actually are, and you're kind of seeing that they're in it for themselves and not for you. And so that is something that you'll need to keep in mind. It might not be something where you need to let them go right this second or address that right this second, because whatever it is that you take action on to kind of rebalance that work-related connection, it's not going to stick, and you're going to have to kind of redo it after Venus goes direct. It's more about just having that understanding and starting to know what you need to do moving forward with this person. This could also be someone coming back around who can help you to heal. So it's kind of like an old practitioner or somebody who you've worked with in the past comes back around with new information involving your health, and that helps you rebalance your body in some way. And there could also be something that comes back around involving a connection with animals or with pets. That could be part of it too. Venus then moves retrograde on the 27th of March all the way through the 12th of April into Pisces, which is your 5th house. This is a beautiful time for Scorpio. This is where you're revisiting your dreams, your the things that bring you joy, your creativity, the things that you do because you love to do them, your hobbies, your interests, your passions. This is where you're going to revisit an old passion and you're going to turn it into something practical and long lasting. And this is going to really throw you into a whole new direction in a lot of different areas of life. This could also be you reevaluating or revisiting your connection with children or with your own children, if that's applicable to you, or something comes back around that changes the relationship with your children for the better and takes it on this new path, this new trajectory where it's kind of like a before and after. Like before this eclipse season and before this Venus retrograde, your relationship with your son or your daughter was one way, and then after that it was a completely different thing, but it was meant to happen that way, and it looks like it'll probably be for the better. So a really nice positive thing. The other thing that's happening here is that this is trining your ascendant, sun, or moon. So if you are a Scorpio sun, moon, or rising anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees, you're going to be feeling this in a very powerful, very positive way. There is something fated that you need to connect with that is just so in touch with your desires, with your experience of pleasure, with something that just feels so good to you on a soul level that you are going to incorporate into your identity and into all of your relationships moving forward. This is also a beautiful energy for reigniting your sex life through fantasy, through illusion, through role play, through something that's a little bit outside of the box, but and more imaginative. And so if that's something that you need in your relationship, now's the time to take advantage of that. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, Venus will be moving retrograde from March 1st through the 27th in your 5th house, which is the house of play, joy, fun. It's the house of creativity. This is where you're revisiting something that's deeply connected to your passions, to the things that you love to do because you love to do them. You're reconnecting with an old hobby, an old interest. And this is going to be a really beautiful thing for you. And it's something that you might want to incorporate into your life moving forward. This is also a time for Sagittarius sun, moon, or risings anywhere from 0 to 10 degrees, or maybe even 15-ish, where you're going to be feeling much more desirable, but also much more charismatic. People will be more drawn to you. People who in the past have brushed you off might be more receptive to whatever it is that you're putting out there or whatever it is that you have to offer. So that's a really beautiful thing to make note of too. This could also be you like revisiting or changing something or reevaluating something with your relationship with your children, if that's applicable, or you realize that the dynamic is one-sided, or you're getting like what you need and they're not getting what they need, or they're getting what they need but you're actually not getting your needs met, and you need to change something about the balance and the way that you deal with your children moving forward. And then Venus is going to retrograde into the 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, and real estate from the 27th of March through the 12th of April. This is a beautiful time for just reevaluating what it is that you truly desire, the harmony, the beauty that you want in your home environment. This is also a really great time to find good deals on things related to property or renovations, where you can find things that you can refurbish, or you can find things secondhand, and you can beautify your surroundings in a really incredible way. I love this, or I love this for like redoing something in your home where it's just kind of old and outdated, and you're not like putting so much money into a renovation. You're just kind of like getting the materials secondhand, or you're DIYing something, but it just becomes much more beautiful. Like this is about balancing your home environment and making it much more aligned with what you desire and like what feels good to you. And this is also about making really important moves when it comes to your home, your family, and property, but making sure that the relationships are all in order. So this is about reevaluating your relationships with family, with the people that you live with, and potentially like rebalancing something. There could also be an energy here if you have like a family member, especially like a parent who you haven't connected with in a long time. It could be a reconnection with a parent. or a family member where you need to bring that back into the mix in some way, or you need to like work through that in some way so that way you can fully move on. But there's definitely like a new direction that you're moving into when it comes to your home and family life, and your relationships need to be adjusted in order to make space for this brand new direction, this brand new life that you're creating for yourself. And then for Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn, Venus is stationing to go retrograde in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, and real estate. There's something here that you might need to revisit or reevaluate involving your family relationships, where something needs to be adjusted or addressed, especially in terms of relationships with family members that are a little bit one-sided. This could also be you renegotiating something financial involving a property or your home, or refinancing something, or maybe renegotiating rent. This could be a good time to do that if that's applicable to you. And this could also be a good time to kind of like maybe renovate something, but do it really quick. Like if there's a quick fix that you can do on something and you can find like a good deal on it, this could be a good time to do that as well. Venus retrogrades into Pisces between the 27th of March through the 12th of April. This is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of community and communication. This is a beautiful time to reconnect with people in your immediate environment. You might have people in your community, neighbors, friends that are, you know, nearby that you haven't connected with in a very long time, that come back around and all of a sudden they're part of your circle again, they're part of your life again, you're seeing them everywhere. If that's the case, especially if it feels fated, if it feels karmic, if it feels synchronistic that you keep running into this person, there's a reason for that. You need to bring that person back into your life, at least for the duration of this Venus retrograde, because they have an important message for you. They have something important that's going to help you in a big way. This is also a really important time for reevaluating your communication and all of your close personal one-on-one connections. And I think that can be very beneficial. There could also be an energy here of refinancing a vehicle or purchasing a vehicle that's used, and maybe it needs a little bit of work, and so you get a good deal on it. That could be a really great thing for Capricorns to use this energy for too. And this is also just reevaluating the way that you connect and communicate with people on a day-to-day basis. Like forming more compassionate and deeper communication beyond surface level with the people in your day-to-day experience and your day-to-day life. And then, and also I should mention siblings. So if there is a sibling or extended family member that you haven't connected with in a very long time, you might find them popping back up into your life. And that's because you need to either reintegrate that relationship and bring them back into your experience a little bit more, or there's something that needs to be resolved so that way you can rebalance and reharmonize that connection so you make space to move forward into a new path. For Aquarius and for Aquarius rising, this is an energy where you might have to reevaluate or revisit your community connections. Old connections from neighbors, extended family members, people in your immediate environment from the past might come back around for you to bring back into the mix. There might be somebody in your neighborhood who you used to hang out with or you used to see all the time and chat with all the time, maybe a neighbor who you were friendly with, and for some reason you lost touch and now you need to bring that back. There could also be a reevaluation of family relationships, especially extended family, where it's kind of like maybe this is one-sided. Maybe you haven't been giving enough to like your sister or your brother, or maybe they're always asking things of you and demanding things of you and you're not getting that reciprocity. You're not getting a lot in return. And so that's something to be addressed at the first part of this Venus retrograde from March 1st through the 27th. This could also be you reevaluating something involving a vehicle. This is a decent time to purchase a used vehicle or refinance a vehicle, or refurbish something maybe with a vehicle. That could be a really great way to utilize this energy as well. And then after the 27th and until the 12th of April, Venus will be retrograding in your 2nd house. This is the time to reevaluate your financial situation. You can have a lot of growth moving forward, but you really have to take a good hard look at how you're spending your money and where you're not having very good boundaries and where your ideas about money are maybe unrealistic and where you can maybe ground that down into planet Earth. This is also revisiting your fantasies, your biggest dreams when it comes to your financial situation and what you want for yourself financially moving forward, what you want to earn, what you want to purchase, what you want to own. This is about purchasing. This is about material possessions, right? What do you truly desire when it comes to your financial comforts? What do you truly desire when it comes to your money and resources? This is about reevaluating that and then maybe turning that into something really real and tangible after Venus goes direct. There could be old stuff involving money that comes back around that you thought was resolved, and you do need to resolve it once and for all so that way you can make room and space for the new energy coming in financially. If that's the case, know that it will be a little muddled during the Venus retrograde. However, after it goes direct, it'll be very clear what you need to do. And then for Pisces and for Pisces rising, Venus retrograde is going to start in your second house. This is a major overhaul and reevaluation of your financial situation. This is about rebalancing your budget, looking at the way that the money's coming in, but also how it's going out, the way that you're spending your resources, and maybe looking at where you can be a little thriftier, save a little bit more money. Looking for bargains is a really beautiful, perfect thing to do while Venus is in retrograde in your second house. It doesn't mean that, your money's going away, your money's going in retrograde. It means that you need to internalize your values around money and take some time to really reflect on what you want and what you need to do moving forward to achieve your financial goals. After March 27th, Venus will retrograde into your sign, Pisces, and it'll stay there until the 12th of April. This is a beautiful time for you. I love this because it's hitting the North Node and Saturn and Neptune in your sign, and it's highlighting all of this, but in a really beautiful, magical way. You've probably been put through the ringer, especially by the time that this shift happens, because of the eclipse that happened right on your ascendant sun or moon, especially if you're a Pisces sun, moon, or rising anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees. It's been intense. This softens the energy. It helps you bring yourself back into harmony. This is a reharmonization after a period of upheaval and change that's been throwing you into a brand new direction and trajectory in your life. You are changing. Your direction is changing. Your relationships are changing. Your whole life this year is subject to a major overhaul. And this is where you're reflecting on your role in that, what you truly need, want, and desire. And also this is you reflecting on what types of relationships you want to carry with you moving forward. This is also a time where opportunities for like enjoyment and pleasure and connection can come back around the time of this Venus retrograde for you to take advantage of if you didn't take advantage of those things the first time around. So I love that too. And this is also a time where a lot of people, I would say, who are Pisces risings, they might want to reinvent themselves when it comes to their appearance. Not the best time to do anything permanent. I should have mentioned this probably at the start of the video too, but like this is not the time to chop off all your hair. This is not the time to get bangs. This is not the time to, do a crazy hair color. This is not the time to get plastic surgery also. You want to, if you feel like you need to reevaluate your appearance and try new things, this is a great time to try things that are temporary, like put temporary color in your hair, or like buy some clothes at a thrift shop or secondhand clothing that they look really cute and they're a different style than what you're used to, and you can try out that style before you go all in on a brand new fancy wardrobe, right? So this is a really great time to try out things temporarily to enhance your appearance and just shake it up and change things, but it's not the time to do something that you can't reverse after Venus goes direct. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends if you feel like they could benefit from the information that I share with you today. If you are somebody who is an astrologer and you want to go deeper into relationships and synastry, again, my mini course is 50% off. It's already super, super high value for what we're charging, and you can dive into that during the Venus retrograde, and it's the perfect time for it. So I hope to see you there. It's the best time to find a bargain. I'm giving you a bargain. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.